I always struggled with weight from when I was a kid. And then when I was in high school, I was 230 something pounds. And then I gradually started gaining weight throughout. So when I started dating, I was definitely heavier. Must have been, I don't know, probably close to 300 pounds. At my highest weight, I think recorded like 470. I was almost 500 pounds, but I realized how unhealthy my relationship with food was.
Wow.
Dating was a motivating factor at that point because I wanted to meet someone who I thought would value me for me, and it's not who I was. I never wanted my weight to define me. Not when I was heavy, and not now. It's not who we are, so it's not what I wanted.
Yeah.
I really did always want to get married and start a family, and I knew it was holding me back at that point when I was obese, but I just accepted the fact that I would just never get married. That's just what I thought.
I don't know if I knew when I wanted to marry Dove. I think I knew when it was something serious. I was in the elevator and I got a text, and you know how it comes up on your phone, just part of the message. Mm-hmm. So the first part of the message is we need to talk. And when you get those texts.
Bum, 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 bum.
Right?
Very scary.
And then I lost service, and I was I was like, oh my God, I didn't even know that I liked this person. And then all of a sudden he's like, we need to talk. I was like, I can't lose him.
Welcome back to another special episode of Stories of Hope. Before we begin, I have to tell you what I saw on my Flash Deals app from Peasy Deals today. It will blow your minds. Flash sales are all the unbelievable price drops on numerous products. And when I clicked on them, I saw an oven. I didn't even know you could get an oven on Peasy Deals. Beats AirPods, which I've been keeping an eye out for. A laptop, a package of t-shirts, and a huge case of water bottles, which was actually sold out because the deal was just too great for it to stay there. Peasy Deals has everything. And what I love about Peasy Deals is they have categories on their app. And there's home, there's clothing, there's toys, there's groceries. And so if there's something you're looking for, you can click the categories and it's so organized. It's so super organized. So you find the things you need and you find the things that you didn't even know you needed for bargain prices. You're probably buying these items elsewhere and you're losing money and time. So download the Peasy Deals app because with Peasy Deals, you'll never pay full price again. Hello, welcome back to the Stories of Hope family. This week we are featuring Batya and Dove, a very courageous couple sharing about the challenges of obesity, navigating dating, experiencing depression, and a lot of other really, really important conversations. This episode made me a little bit emotional, and I hope it touches your heart the way it touched mine. So get ready for another special episode of Stories of Hope. Hi, I'm Tzipora Grodko, and this is the Stories of Hope podcast. Dove and Batya, thank you so much for running into our office from New York City, postpartum, post your first week of work, straight from school. I'm really, really excited because this episode hits a subject that we've never discussed yet and is really, really important. So let's start with you, Dove. Tell us, please, a little bit about your background and how old you were when you met Batya.
I grew up in the 5 towns in Woodmere. I lived there basically my whole life. I started dating when I was a senior in college. I don't know exactly how old I was. I met Batya, I guess, we're coming up on our 2-year anniversary. So I was 35 when we met. So I dated for about 15-ish years. Yeah. Wow.
And happy almost 2-year anniversary.
Thank you. Thank you. I got to get the right gift now.
We could talk about that after. I know a thing or two about gifts. And tell us a little bit about your background and how old you were when you met Dove.
Okay. I'm from the 5 towns. And I went to TAG for elementary school, switched to Manhattan High School for high school. And went to Mechala, Queens College, then to optometry school. And I met Dove when I was 30 Well, I met you when I was 32, but we got married. I was 33.
Almost 33, only a few days after your birthday.
It was after my birthday. I remember people were like, well, if you get married before your birthday, you'll only be 32 when you get married.
Almost did it.
I was like, let's make a difference.
Yeah, and people's like effort to preserve your dignity, they think they're being helpful. And the reality is it shouldn't make a difference.
Right. That's interesting.
So you were both dating for really around 15 years before the two of you met each other. And that's really, really hard. Can you tell us a little bit about what it was like for you when you started dating?
When I started dating, it was really hard to know like when I was like ready to date, ready to get married, I guess. It was a topic me and my friends used to discuss all the time. I still don't know like when I actually made the transition. I know I dated the first girl I dated for a long time. And I was really just trying to figure out like, what am I doing? Am I doing this right? Obviously it didn't work out, but I think the whole time I was just trying to figure out, am I doing this right? Like I never knew like how to go about dating and what to plan, what to do, what to say. Maybe I never got it right, but I found someone anyway. So yeah, I mean, that's a little bit about dating.
Mm-hmm. And what were some of the challenges you experienced when you started dating?
So I think I know what you're getting at. When I started dating, it wasn't so much of a challenge. I know that part of what we're here is to talk about weight and how that affected my, life all the way through and dating. I always struggled with weight from when I was a kid. Always trying to like trade snacks, steal stacks, whatever I needed to do to get more. And then when I was in high school, actually, I remember how much I weighed. I was 230 something pounds. And, whatever, some things happened, camp, etc., nothing bad per se. And I went on like a real crazy diet. My friends remember, as always talked about, I lost like 50 or 60 pounds. Was in the best shape of my life. And then I went to Israel for the year and I completely lost control. I had no clue what I was doing. I didn't make a psychological change, I guess, about my weight. I just like lost it. We could talk more about that later. And then I gradually started gaining weight throughout. I probably put on 20 pounds a year, if not more. I wasn't really keeping track. So when I started dating, I was definitely heavier. Must have been, I don't know, probably close to 300 pounds. But I didn't think it was really holding me back from dating anyone. I mean, I knew I was bigger, but it wasn't something that I thought was holding me back. It was something that I always thought about, but I was constantly being set up. It's much easier to get set up when you're a guy. And okay, so you're a little bigger, but it wasn't something that I connected. I struggled with my weight, but I don't think it held me back from dating. At least I didn't feel it was.
And did matchmakers ever say any comments to you about your weight?
Very rarely. That's not where it came from. I think that they were honestly probably just excited to have a heavier guy to set up with heavier girls. I think that's really where they were coming from. People would always like dance around the issue. Like, are you comfortable dating someone heavy? And I didn't want to not date someone who I thought there could be potential. It was sometimes upsetting to think like that was the only reason why I was being set up. But I dated a mix of girls, some who were heavier and some who were not. Yeah.
Wow. It's so interesting because Batya, as you're listening to him say like, yeah, like people didn't really, say anything rude to me as I was dating about my weight. What do you, I don't know what things were like for you, but I'm wondering what you've heard from your peers or your friends when it comes to weight and dating on the women's side.
Definitely different. I mean, I remember this one time in particular where I was invited to a singles event and I wanted to bring a friend along with me because you never want to go anywhere by yourself. And the shotgun said, for sure, you can bring a friend. Who do you want to bring? And when I told her, she's like, oh, what's her dress size? And I remember like my jaw like dropped down. I was like, I don't know, like made something up. I was like, she's a size 4. Regardless of what size she was, she's like, are you sure? Because I remember her being heavy and I really just want to make sure that it's the right place for her. I don't want her to, feel insecure around other people. And it wasn't even about me. And I was so insulted. I mean, this goes, and sometimes I mentioned before, like when I feel like shidduchim say things to us, like they don't even realize sometimes that we're people, right? I remember one time in particular where really hit home was like I drove all the way to Lakewood to talk to somebody, and he didn't even take out his AirPods, or what are they called?
You're good.
I have an Android. To talk to me, and I just didn't feel like I was a person. Like he wasn't even giving me time of day to speak to me. And I mean, it's tough.
It's already tough. And then not being treated with the dignity you deserve just makes it so much tougher. But you don't really have room for it to be tougher. It's already too hard.
Right. I remember from like that incident, or a buildup of a few incidents, I drew this picture of a lot of what I did to kind of process always my emotions is to draw them out. And so at that moment I drew this picture. It's titled My Meet and Greet, where it's a little pun on meat. And I have all the girls in like a meat, what is that?
Display case.
Display case, counter, like as if you're in the supermarket and there's this little boy with a shidduchim next to him, or you can interpret it as like his mom. I don't know which way you want to go with it, but kind of like picking from a display of girls and a meat counter, like where we have kind of no say. We're just these objects, like, oh, they describe and they talk about you in front of you. And that was always something so insulting.
Yeah.
Not to be part of the conversation.
Mm-hmm. And for it to seem like the only thing that matters is really how you look, how big you are. And it's thank you for sharing. I love that piece of artwork. And for those listening, Batya is an incredible artist, and I'm excited to dive into it on our episode. When I saw some of your work, it gave me this sort of hug that I didn't know I needed. Being validated through art is almost magical. And was that something that you used as a coping mechanism throughout the challenges of dating?
Definitely. It took a while. I mean, first when I started, it was just I was trying to get better at sketching. So I would draw out the outfits I was wearing on dates. And then it became more encompassing the emotions that I felt. Like, how can I like to kind of use verbose language when I describe how I'm feeling and illustrate it. And imagery is something that's always been more useful for me. And so then sitting out the hours and drawing these pictures of how I felt. And then I would share them sometimes with my friends. And just to be able to see how you feel visually, sometimes you feel like you're the only one feeling this. And then when you see it, you're like, somebody else out there feels what I couldn't even put into words. So it helped me. And I feel like sometimes it helps some of my peers as well. And even sometimes I'd even listen to a friend's story and then draw out what she was telling me to kind of like make sure she knows that she was being heard.
It's actually like art therapy.
I did it for myself, I guess.
That's really powerful. One of my favorite pieces that you shared with me is, maybe people could relate to this, is an hourglass. And the sand is going down, the time is passing, and there's a woman just looks like she's just trying to hold on to something, but there's no other option other than like watching time pass. And just thought it was so powerful. So it's just fascinating to me how you were almost 400 pounds and you felt like you didn't receive that sort of experience with people. And yet a woman who could be a very healthy weight will be offended, might be insulted, and no one means ill will. I don't think people mean it. I think that when things become habit, we become desensitized. And what we're trying to do now is make everyone a little bit more sensitized, eliminate that habit. Things are challenging, and weight is something that's supposed to help us know if we are healthy. It's not supposed to be something that people see to determine our worth or value. And I know that's a lot of what this episode's going to talk about. So I want to hear for you what it was like, how being overweight affected your experience.
So it's interesting. I think about my experience. I have multiple experiences in my life with weight. There was a period of time I was overweight, and there was a period of time I was obese. And I think it's helpful for me to differentiate between the two. When I started dating,
sorry to interrupt you. Can you clarify the difference?
Sure. At least in my mind, when I started dating, I was overweight. Like, I was overweight my whole life, basically, except for the brief period of time in high school when I got it together, at least in pounds. At some point, there's like, and I didn't feel like it was holding me back. Like, people are overweight. Like, it's fine. Like, it's not healthy, but it is what it is. But at some point, and I don't know at what pound it was, but at some point I viewed myself as not being able to go back. Like, this is never coming off. This is who I am. I'm just obese. At my highest weight, I was, I think, recorded like 470. It was almost 500 pounds. I probably crossed that threshold, went back and forth. I wasn't weighing myself consistently. But when I was obese, that was when I felt like I had lost hope. Like, it was hard. Like, I accepted my mortality. I assumed that I was never going to get married. No one was going to be able to appreciate who I was as a person. No one would be able to like see through those layers of fat, so to speak. I felt
That must have been such a lonely, dark place to be in.
Yeah, it was not good. It was not a good place to be. I always put on a persona of happiness, and I never wanted my weight to hold me back. I worked really hard to not be lazy or perceived as lazy. I was always running around doing things. People were like, "You okay? You want to take a break?" I'm like, "No, I am not taking a break. This is not who I am." Probably saved my life, honestly. All the running around and just trying to prove myself I'm beyond how many pounds I am. It was when I hit obesity. I think that's when my life became much harder, and that's when it affected my dating in a way, which was, I don't know if it was healthy or unhealthy, but that's when I think it impacted me.
In what way?
When probably I shouldn't have been dating, but it was definitely the period of time where I did not value myself or love myself. And when you don't love yourself, it's really hard to let someone else love you. And there wasn't space for anybody else. I guess I took up too much space. I don't know. It didn't matter who I was being set up with. If I was being set up with someone heavy, it was the thing that I hated most about myself. And so that's what I saw in them. Like, oh, they're also suffering. I don't need to be with someone else who's suffering the same thing. And if I was set up with someone who was, call it more average size or whatever it was, I was like, there's something wrong with them if they want to be with me. And so there was nothing for anyone else. And it was it was unhealthy physically, but it was also unhealthy mentally.
Yeah. If it's struggling with our self-esteem, not feeling lovable, not feeling wanted, especially while someone is single, boy, it's an awful place that I don't want anyone to ever have to be in. It's really tough. Did you experience any of those feelings while you were navigating dating?
Yes. I think it took a while to kind of get there. So I started dating maybe a year or so after coming back from seminary, and I got a lot of dates. I went on a lot of dates. I met a lot of people. I kind of started off with this idea like, oh, I'm going to use this time to, learn something from everybody. And I just didn't realize I'd meet so many everybody's. And it's not about like a constant rejection, but it's a constantly building myself up. Like every time I went out, I thought like, oh, this is going to be it. Right. And it's that constant disappointment, which was over and over again. And then, people would ask you like, why are you still single? I'm like, I don't know. I'm amazing. Right. And then that kind of seems to start to fade. It's like, maybe I'm not amazing. Like maybe something's wrong with me. And like, as the years go on, you constantly have to tell yourself, like, be your own hype woman. Like, I'm great. Like, I'm still good. I'm good. And I don't know exactly when I switched from I'm good to I'm not so good. And I think it started more, I noticed it more physically actually, like where I'd feel not so good. And I didn't know like it would be like a constant feeling that I'd have. So you can be like, I guess, alone. I'm like trying to figure out like the words to say it with. I know at the time I used to journal and with my artwork. So I try to draw out the images, try to see what I'm feeling. So I was more kind of trying to pinpoint what it was so I can get it on paper. Something I remember always is that it feels like a pain in my cheeks, like trying not to cry. And it was constant. I'd be at work and I'd feel it. I'd be on the subway and I'd feel it. Like I didn't need any outside reminders. I was like constantly reminded. I'd be walking down the street. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm alone. Right. And Now I kind of forgot the question. I just went on this tangent here.
No, it's a beautiful tangent. What were that feeling in your cheeks if it could speak? What would it say?
It would say, it was just, I'm hurting, right? Like I'm in so much pain. I remember, so I lived on the Upper West Side for a while. And I remember the first time I realized that I didn't speak to anybody for like 2 days. It's like, I didn't use my voice. Does it still work? Right. I started talking out loud to myself. I was like, oh, okay. Like I could talk. And then I was like, if I died, would anybody know? Like, how long would it take for somebody to know that I died?
Was this during COVID or?
No, actually. And in an ironic way, COVID was a great equalizer for me. Everybody's life was uncertain, right? So like dating was so hard, like being single, like I didn't want to plan ahead because like I didn't want to know. I wanted to be like, maybe the next guy I date will be it and I'll be married, right? Maybe I can't plan for 4 months from now, right? You can go out with somebody, like go out for like 3 weeks and then like 3 months you're engaged, like 4 months I could be married. I don't know. And all of a sudden COVID, everybody was like, I don't know, right? So that felt like we were all of a sudden like equal. I was like, oh, great. Nobody knows what's happening. It was an interesting time period, I guess.
Yeah. What I'm hearing from you is that there was this loneliness that just seemed to follow you wherever you were during this period of time of trying to find the right person.
Right. It was interesting though, because I don't think a lot of people knew this about me. Right. I remember I had met with a shidduchim and she told me, she said, I asked around before I met you. I like to do that before I meet people. And I just want to know like what your reputation is. And it's so pleasant to hear that you're such an happy, upbeat person. And joke's on her because like the week before I started antidepressants. So I was really struggling to be happy.
Yeah. And can you speak a little bit more about what led you to that decision to be on antidepressants?
Yes, I can. I felt so beyond despair. Like this pain was just building on and on and on. And I really thought I could get it under control. And I didn't know, I felt so inadequate that this one piece of my life was impacting so much of my life, right? I wanted so badly to be that happy person that I was displaying, and I wanted it not to impact my life. I felt like it shouldn't be my worth, but it was. And it wasn't going away. I had one friend who I hosted for a singles event. I hosted her on the Upper West Side, and I remember I was crying before she came, and I cleaned up the tears. She came, I was like, oh yeah, great, I'm in such a great mood. And we went out to the event and I was on display. Great. Okay. I'm such a happy person. Okay. Talk to everybody. Oh, I know everybody, right? Make all those jokes. And then I remember coming back home and just sitting on the couch and just being depleted. And she looks at me, she goes like, the lights just went out of you. Like, where did you go? I think that was like the first time I thought like, maybe I need more help than I'm getting.
Yeah.
So I started, I did go to therapy. I spoke with somebody. I was like, I have to fix myself. And that was a while. And then it was a point where she brought up like, I'm trying all the tools. Maybe this can be just another tool to get me out and beyond that.
Yeah. That was very brave. That was very, very brave. It's confusing when someone feels like, well, I'm a happy person. Why do I feel so unhappy inside? And I wonder how many people listening are relating to every single word coming out of your mouth. I recently spoke to a friend and I said, how are you? And she just started laughing. And she said, come on, Tzipora, like I'm single, navigating what comes with that. How fantastic can I already be? And I share that so that people could just appreciate the challenge. Doesn't matter how much someone travels, how much money they have, how successful they are in their career, if it's not what feels natural, if it's not really like the natural step of what their heart desires, it can't compensate for something that isn't there. And if there's any resource that's helpful, it can be medication, it can be therapy. It would probably work best if it's both. Then thank God. Thank God there are resources available for people to turn to. It doesn't mean someone has done something wrong or isn't doing something right. They've just been given a plate that is overflowing with so much, and they literally and physically cannot manage it all on their own. And I just want to give a shout out to everyone that feels like they're in that place. And you can be married, you can have your own struggles, but more specifically, I do want to give a special shout out to those that feel lonely. It's one of the hardest things in the entire world. And not being able to start that next step of life with your significant other by building a family, it has this domino effect of challenge onto every facet of life that people can't really understand unless they're in it. And I just want you to be seen and heard through Batya's courageous disclosure, vulnerable disclosure, and this little shout out I'm giving you now. So thank you so much for sharing. I can almost see the artwork that you would make. Kind of what picture would you give that, what you just described?
I think I probably have it already out there. I definitely have I drew myself made out of glass, and there's like shatter marks on it. That one comes to mind.
Yeah.
Can you think of any of them?
So fragile.
You know your artwork way better than I do. I mean, I love your artwork, but
I saw that one and I love it because people sometimes say, well, oh, you have to be careful around them. They're sensitive. We're not sensitive. We're fragile. I'll be the first to say I am strong, but I am so fragile. I can break. And that's why we want to be careful with our choice of words, with our choice of action, inclusivity, because we're fragile, not by choice, but by default. And I think most of us are like that, whether we want to admit it or not. And I think it's beautiful. I think beautiful things are fragile.
I drew one that was like taking my heart out and putting it into like a safekeeping box. I was like, I had enough. Like we're putting it away. And I remember showing it to my therapist and she's like, you can't do that. You have to draw one that's putting it back in now. And I couldn't do it for a while. And then like I got out all the arts and crafts, the glue and the tape. And I was like, okay, we're going to put it back together. And I'm going to put it back inside. So I have both drawings.
Wow. You're going to make me cry. I don't usually do that. Not in front of the camera. Wow. Thank you. We'll be right back to our episode. But first, you have to check out Pizza Biza, making fresh hot pizzas on the spot by their professional chefs, indoor or outdoor in their pizza ovens, meat or dairy, plus full catering around the tri-state area and Florida. Specializing in events with several hundred people with no lines. You heard right. Full menu. You have to check them out on Instagram at Pizza Biza and visit them at pizzabiza.com. Pizza's my favorite food, so please invite me, Pizza Biza, on Instagram and check them out at pizzabiza.com. These are the people you want to call. Pizza Biza, I'll see you at my next event. If you've ever wanted something more than anything in the world, then you've probably tried a Segulah or two. And if you're anything like me, then you've been dejected and disappointed when it seems like it didn't work. And that's why I love this organization called Better Than a Segulah. Like their name, we learn on Simchas Torah, Ein Segulah Ketorah. There is no better Segulah than Torah study. What this organization does is they have a group of Torah scholars that will learn something on your behalf in the nachas of what you want. And even better, the entire process is personalized. They can study a certain daf in the Gemara for 40 days, whatever you want, whatever speaks to your heart, whatever you connect to, you can let them know. So if this is something that you would find supportive, inspiring, and encouraging, you can contact them by either clicking the show notes below or take out your phone and call them at 364-7029. That's betterthanasegula.org, Better Than a Segulah, an organization that's there to support you in the way that they know how to and in the way that they can. For so long, we've been taught to believe that you need to wait for things to change in order for life to get better. And you deserve to live the life of your dreams before things change. And that's what Live Better Academy is here for, enabling you to enrich your life by exploring the 5 core areas that contribute to your fulfillment and happiness. This course is here to make sure that you no longer need to wait. Exploring spirituality, health and wellness, recreation and soul, social support and environment, and your profession and ambition, my course helps you understand what you're missing, explore any gaps that need areas of improvement, and truly understand what you need to do to create the life that you deserve. It's a 5-week course, so you have to be fully committed. But the easy part is that it's all virtual. You can access it anywhere and anytime. It includes pre-recorded classes, intense coursework material to take the information, turn it into application, and ultimately transformation, and a live group class, which includes me and your peers. It's truly extraordinary, and I want you to be a part of it. So if you are interested, click the link below to schedule your free 15-minute consultation to see if it's the right fit for you, or send a quick text message to the number below to schedule your free 15-minute consultation. I cannot wait to meet you and be on this journey with you so that you can finally live life better. So, Dove, I want to hear, because right now I see you and I see that you're not almost 400 pounds.
No, not even close now.
So I want to hear
when I think I lost more weight than I currently am. So for some perspective.
I want to hear when you were in that place of not loving yourself, what happened next?
So it's hard to get out of that. I was gaining weight. Even when I crossed the line into obese, I just became more obese. I guess morbidly obese is the technical term. And I didn't think there was a way to recover, I guess. I guess what happened was really COVID, I guess, sparked something. I was diagnosed very early. I was diagnosed March in 2020. So like I really thought I was going to die. Like no one knew what was going on.
Wow.
And so I was in isolation for a long time because I didn't want to get anyone else sick. And I remember just constantly thinking about food and like, where am I going to get it from? And I had plenty of it. Like at no point was I hungry, but I just remember constantly thinking about food, where am I going to get it from, and eating. I ate a lot. I mean, what else? There wasn't so many other things to do, but I for sure put on a lot of weight. Not that I wasn't already very heavy, but at that point, who cares? What's another 20, 30 pounds? And so fine. So I moved back. I went back home afterwards, and then I had avoided going to a doctor for a long time. I was basically convinced I had diabetes, but if you're not diagnosed with diabetes, you don't have diabetes. So just avoid going to the doctor for the rest of your life. No problem. And then, but while I was living at home, my father basically was like, oh, I scheduled a physical. I'll schedule one for you also. I'm like, God, this is the worst. I do not want to go to the doctor. I hated going to doctors. It was always like, you're overweight. Yeah, I know I'm overweight. I remember one time when I was younger, a doctor's like, what are you going to do about your weight? I'm like, I think I'm trying to get taller. So fine. Anyway, so I went to get my physical, and okay, had the same conversation. What are you gonna do about your weight? Okay, I'm gonna try diet, exercise. Okay, fine. So one of the parts of the physical is this glucose test, and I was really dreading those results because I didn't know if I can actually handle having diabetes. We believe that God doesn't give us a test that we can't, pass, and I don't know what would have happened if I tested positive for diabetes. Anyway, so I got my results back, and I was 1 point away from being pre-diabetic. And yeah, I mean, I had spoken to doctors before, and they were like, you're a ticking time bomb. Like you have to get diabetes at some point. Like it's just not possible not. And I just took that as a sign from God. It really gave me hope that I could do this.
Wow.
Because I did not want to cross into that. at least not in a way that if I could do something about it. So I saw a surgeon. It was actually the second time I saw a surgeon. I saw a surgeon earlier about bariatric surgery, and it wasn't really so helpful. I didn't believe he was someone who really wanted to work with me, but it's also like you can't help people who don't want to be helped. So it's hard to know if people were trying to be genuine with me and I wasn't computing or not. Anyway, so the surgeon was great. And also during COVID, there were no in-person appointments. So very easy to go to a virtual weigh-in. We always try to, I mean, at least me, I assume other people also like, I can't go, I can't take off all these appointments and work and my career. Like I put everything ahead of my health. I never put myself first. It was a very unhealthy place to be, but it's really hard not to go to Zoom doctor's appointments, and ask you how much you weigh. So now they did tell me if I lose weight on my own, that's more healthy for the surgery. So I lost like 70 pounds, which sounds like a lot, but when you're close to 500, it's a lot easier to lose 70 pounds.
Is it? It is?
Oh, well, yeah, you just don't stop eating so much. Okay. Like if you're taking in 5,000 calories a day and you go down to 3,500, it's easier, don't eat 25 cookies or a whole papaya pizza. And yeah, so it's easier to do that. The last 10 or 20 are the hardest. So I started down that journey basically at that time. And it gave me a new look on life, basically, to like start this process. I didn't even know how I was going to like finish it. After I lost the 70 pounds to like pre-op, I'm like, oh, wow, I can do the rest of this my own. Like maybe I can do this, but it was really unhealthy. I was basically fasting and protein shakes. Like it was really not healthy. And then I did the surgery, and I think the surgery gave me the tools to be able to maintain a diet. Beforehand, I just didn't think I can do it. And, versus other diets I did, like I constantly yo-yo dieted, gain 20 pounds, lose 20 pounds, lose 50, gain 50, whatever it was. But here, even after I did the surgery, you don't lose any weight from the surgery. I had a gastric sleeve. So you don't really lose weight from the surgery, but they just cut out a portion of your stomach and you're not as hungry and you can't eat so much. You also can't eat all the same things, but not everybody is successful with it because you really have to make a mindset change. And I regretted the surgery after I did it. I was really upset with myself that I couldn't eat whatever I wanted and as much as I wanted. And that's what I enjoyed. Like that's what gave me what I thought was real simcha, and obviously not. Mm-hmm. And so I regretted it at first. I was like in pain over it that I couldn't do that anymore. But then I realized just how unhealthy my relationship with food and eating was. And it was that would made me realize that it was so unhealthy, and everything I had done to myself, and call it an addiction or whatever it wasn't actually diagnosed. I did see a therapist for a period of time, talk things out. But I realized how unhealthy my relationship with food was.
Wow. And was it very difficult to develop the self-discipline to create new eating habits or a new nutrition plan, or that was natural because of the surgery you had?
It was definitely not natural. It was very difficult. Anyone who thinks that gastric surgery is going to just make things easier, I would say they're wrong. Mm-hmm. It gives you the tools to be able to succeed if those are the tools you're looking for. There's no easy way to lose weight. It's discipline, and it's making a switch that you want to do it. And plenty of people try to do that and it's not successful. It's just very difficult. I tried it lots of times, but at least for me, this gave me the tools to be able to succeed and to see this. I think until I realized that I had such an unhealthy relationship with food, I was never really ready to make the change. And I still struggle with it. Like, it's not like you solve it. It's like, I almost feel like, I remember afterwards when I lost the weight, people were like, oh, now you can have a cookie, pizza. I'm like, no, I'm not eating those things. Like, would you offer an alcoholic a drink? Like, it's not what I do anymore. It was actually a struggle when we first got married because I had a much stricter diet then, eased up a little bit because I just didn't want to eat any of those things. And it's hard when you're going out. You want to split a dessert? By split it, you mean you eat the whole thing. Sure, we can split a dessert. I just wasn't interested. I'm still not interested in those things because I'm afraid that I would slip back, not to my weight, but into not being in control. So I really want to be able to still maintain my control over food. And for a long time, I felt food was controlling me.
And that probably wasn't helpful when you thought about your self-worth and your self-love, because if something else is controlling us, then we feel like we're weak and undeserving, etc.
Yeah, no, it's how I viewed most situations. I would walk into a room and think like, am I the heaviest person in this room? How much heavier am I than the next heaviest person? Like I would constantly think about weight and other people's weights. And it's not I don't think it's a normal thing to think about. I don't do it anymore, but at the time it was kind of obsessive.
Yeah. And what comes to your mind when you hear people talk about weight and food and diet? Because people talk about it probably too much.
People talk about it a lot. It's interesting of all, like, if you smoke, right? So like, it's really hard to stop, but you can stop, right? You can't stop eating, right? You have to eat, and you can't never allow yourself to, have a snack or, a cheat day, whatever it is. Like, like we eat. And,
especially when you're an Orthodox Jew.
We eat a lot. Yeah. So, and those social pressures are really hard also. Even trying to give up carbs, like you're having challah on Shabbat, you're having something, matzah, you're doing something. I mean, if someone has a serious problem, they can speak to their Rav. Like these are complicated questions. Someone has a diagnosed problem, but for the vast majority of people, that's what they're doing. I think that one thing that's probably worth mentioning is that it's not so easy to control. People just say like, just stop, just don't eat that. Like, just don't. And, it's like telling someone who is depressed, like, just don't be depressed, or just someone who's anxious, just don't be anxious. Like, it's not so easy to just stop. Like, it's how I was, it's how you are. And I think that we judge. I think that because people think of their own weight and they're probably not so comfortable in the weight that they are, they're like, well, I'm not that. Like, I can help that person. They're so overweight. And they know what works for them. And maybe it's easier for you to like not eat that or make that decision, but it's not so easy for somebody else sometimes, especially when they're overweight or obese.
Yeah.
So those were never helpful comments from people, like, just don't do it. It's not so easy.
And what would you tell if someone shares with someone that they're talking to and says, it comes up in passing and they say like, yeah, I used to be very overweight. Yeah, I got surgery. Yes, I want an Ozempic. And people's instinct is probably to say like, wow, you look great. You look fantastic. I'm curious to hear from you. What would be the best ideal response that's supportive and respectful?
I mean, listen, people always like to hear that they look great. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to say. I think asking people how they feel is probably better than how they look. It's probably important. Like, how do you feel about it? Because some people lose weight and it's not so healthy. So I think talking to people how they feel is probably more helpful than telling them they look great, although it's never bad to hear they look great.
That's really valuable. Thank you. And I think it's unbelievable how you took that step and decided to really transform your entire life when you were doing something that felt so unnatural to the life you were living. Like you said, we all need to eat, and this was your lifestyle, and just what a tug of war and wanting things to change, but yet feeling like they can't. And you did it. And I think that's pretty extraordinary.
Yeah. Dating was definitely a motivating factor for me also. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we're here. I really did always want to get married and start a family. And I knew it was holding me back at that point, when I was obese, but I just accepted the fact that I would just never get married. That's just what I thought. And it was really hard work to maintain from the surgery to the end. You're supposed to lose 70 to 80% of your excess body weight in a year, which I did. I lost like 225 pounds. And dating was a motivating factor at that point because I wanted to meet someone who I thought would value me for me. And it's not who I was. I never wanted my weight to define me. Not when I was heavy and not now. It's not who we are. So it's not what I wanted.
Yeah. And Batya, did you know Dove before he lost the weight?
I did not know Dove before he lost the weight. I think the only thing I knew before we went out was my friends like, oh, he used to be really heavy. He lost weight. His clothes are a little big.
They were very big.
And it's interesting because part of me, I keep saying like, I wish I knew you beforehand because like I feel like I don't get to know the full you.
Well, I know when we were dating, I would share pictures of you.
No, you would share pictures of you.
I would share pictures with you,
right,
of me, and they made you uncomfortable.
Yes, I asked you to stop. I was trying to get to know this person, and these pictures don't really look like the person who was across from me. And then I would conflate every obese person that I would see. I'd be like, oh, that's Dove. And then I'd go on a date and be like, no, that's Dove. And then I was just getting very stuck in that position. And I just wanted to know the person who was there on the date with me. Now I can look at the pictures. Now I love the person in the pictures as well as the person with me. But it was at that point where I was it's also like a mirror to myself. I felt so superficial. I felt so vain. I was like, what's going to stop me because he's overweight? Is that so much like that matters to me? I sometimes still feel that way. You like to say like, oh, I was waiting for you because like I was hiding under fat. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't know where I'm going.
No, it sounds like you're sharing that like you wanted to know everything that made Dove, but then when you started to learn a little bit about that, it was so uncomfortable for you because it almost seemed like a different person than the person you were with. And it also challenged, like you said, your foundational beliefs of like, I don't want to consider myself someone vain, and made you uncomfortable to feel that way when you saw his pictures.
You're good at this.
I know for me, one of the reasons I wanted to share the pictures, like I was like so proud of what I did.
Yeah.
And, when she reacted that way, I'm like, does she not understand like what I went through? And I guess I realized that it was making her uncomfortable, just like the people who loved me made them uncomfortable how heavy I was because they wanted me to be healthy. And it was endearing in some way to know that I was showing someone this picture and like it's not who you are anymore. Like I don't need to see that. Like I care about you. Like we don't need to focus on that part of your life. So it was nice.
Wow. And when you were as you were dating and waiting to meet the right person, how did the two of you meet?
That's like a boring story. Like my friend married your friend and they set us up.
I don't know what took them so long. But
And when you were on, earlier you spoke about being on the journey of feeling really down and depressed and taking medication. When you met Dove, did you feel like you were in a mentally stable place?
Yeah, I wasn't on medication anymore at the time. I do want to say I was really tired when I was dating Dove. I remember that first date. I'd driven to the city after work because I work on Sundays. Don't promote that. It's not a great idea. And I met up with him, and I don't know if it's an anecdote to say, but I think 2 weeks earlier, I did like literally the same date. I drove into the city on a Sunday, went to the same exact restaurant, met up with a guy there. After eating, he's like, do you want to go for a walk? And I was like, yeah, but I'm really tired and I have a long commute back to the 5 towns. So I'll go for like a short walk, but I want to get heading back. And then he never called me back. And I remember like through my aunt or my cousin, somebody's like, oh, I heard you didn't like want to go out with him. And I was just so taken aback that like he assumed this of me. He didn't even ask me. I didn't even know.
Brutal.
So a few weeks later, I had literally the same date. And Dope's like, you want to go for a walk? I was like, sure. Yeah, totally. And he's like, oh, but you must be so tired. Oh my God, that was like a blessing. I was like, I am tired.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And when did you know you wanted to marry Dove?
Wow. I don't know if I knew like when I wanted to marry Dove. I think I knew like when it was something serious. I was in the elevator and I got a text, and you know how it like comes up on your phone, just like part of the message. So the first part of the message is like, we need to talk. And you know when you get those text messages, right?
Very scary.
And then I lost service, and I was I was like, oh my God, wait, I didn't even know that I liked this person. And then all of a sudden he's like, we need to talk. I was like, I can't lose him. So that was like a turning moment for me. It's a pretty boring moment, but like important text.
Yeah.
We didn't really need to talk, by the way.
Yeah, I paid for parking instead of looking for a free spot. I think that was the issue.
Yeah, and I said we need to talk because I didn't think you were a person who paid for parking in the city.
I know. I like pride myself on finding parking.
Yeah.
I had to pull into a lot. It was sad.
And Dove, how soon after you lost weight did you meet Batya?
So the decision to start dating again was difficult. So it was hard to know like when you like lose enough to like, I guess, start dating to like feel comfortable with how you look. Probably dated maybe 18 months after I probably had surgery. I dated a few girls, but I wasn't the first girl I dated.
What?
Afterwards. Sorry, we should talk afterwards. We should talk. And so, sorry, what do you ask me?
I wanted to know how soon after.
Oh, how soon did it? Yeah,
met.
so probably about 18 when we went August. So about 18 months, something like that.
And when did you know you wanted to marry Batya?
This is a good question. I was always trying to look for someone who was able to see me and listen and care to listen and grow and like really be there for me, and someone I can be there for them. And I remember that I like art and poetry, and Batya was great helping me with that. I remember we read a poem by Shel Silverstein called Masks, which is about like, getting to know someone, taking off our mask. We all wear masks, and you might miss someone because you're not revealing enough about yourself. It was always like an impactful poem for me, dating people, relationships in general. And I remember not too much later than that, it was probably for my birthday. So it was in August, and this was December. Maybe I got a
birthday.
What was it for? Just you did draw it?
Just drew it.
You're the best. And she made a drawing of that poem of us taking off our masks.
I think I was nervous you were going to break up with me.
Well, you did a good job holding on to me. And, I just saw that someone like, wow, is like really listening and is on the same emotional page as me. So it was probably the most special gift I ever got. And I saw someone who's like really listening and growing and like wanted to be there for me.
Yeah.
Really give and take.
Yeah. And what message would you give to someone listening who is overweight? What I'm hearing, well, I'm going to interrupt myself. What I'm hearing a lot from you is, of course, the weight was really lethal to your health at a certain point. But what I'm also hearing, and I want to make sure that listeners understand, it's not as much about the weight as it is about the self-worth. And how we take care of ourselves often reflects how we view ourselves. So what would you tell someone that's listening that relates to your story, whether they're very obese, whether they have unhealthy health habits, and they're listening to you and they're thinking like, yeah, they're not married, they haven't found the right person yet. What might you tell them?
First of all, don't lose hope. That's number one. Great name for a podcast, by the way. And that's number one. Number two, at some point I did go into therapy myself. My parents urged me to do it. I really did not want to. I was really resistant. I started seeing someone, Dr. Isaac Hellman, whatever it was. He was an addiction expert, and I was really resistant. I really didn't want to go. And I guess I'm not even sure what he said that really helped me, but it really helped me to articulate and verbalize my own problems. And he then was helpful in giving me tools and exercises to be able to do. So I would say, don't be afraid of trying therapy. It doesn't mean that you're sick. It just means that you might need some help getting over some hump to be able to like move forward and make change. Even just going to therapy once or twice, it shows that you want to do change. I think sometimes we lose hope and then we don't take any steps forward to try to make a change. I'd say the second you accept the fact that you're not making any more changes or you're not trying, that's a dangerous place to be. So you should take steps to make changes and know what you want. Just in terms of weight, you don't have to lose weight, right? It's not about, you shouldn't let it define who you are. As I said earlier, when I was overweight, it wasn't something that I felt was holding me back so much. But at some point it did cross over and it was really unhealthy, both physically and mentally. And if you feel like you're in a place like that, you probably need some more help. Surgery helped for me. Might not be helpful for everyone. Again, I said it's still hard work.
And if it's okay, I'll add, and if someone undereats, if someone is eating too little.
For sure. No, for sure. I think that realizing that we should have a healthy relationship with food and eating is important. Too much or too little, for sure. We should have a healthy relationship with food. We should have a healthy diet. We don't have to be razor thin, and we shouldn't be super heavy. Everyone just be average. It's called average for a reason. The other thing I would say is that, you can do it, right? If you decide to make a change, if you would manifest that good. You can manifest that change. And yeah, no one is beyond repair. And you can do it.
And let's say they're hearing you, even though I think you said you were almost 500 pounds, and you're saying you can do it. And they're thinking, I don't know, I've tried, I can't. What continues to give you the discipline to do it now?
I think at this point, I really, my health is really important to me. I think that also my religious life is also helpful for me. Sometimes the Torah is just like the simplest way to put it. And like Torah just says, "V'achalta v'sevata v'rachta," like eat, satisfied, and you bench. Like you don't have to overeat. You don't want to undereat, right? Eat, satisfied, bench. Like it's pretty simple. And I guess I used to hide behind religion to affect my weight. Like, be like, no, it's more important to learn. Like, I'm not going to take care of my well. I'm not going to go for a walk. I'm not going to go to the gym. I'm not going to, do those things. I'll eat it, whatever's, easiest possible, like time. And, don't use religion to hide behind problems that you need to fix either. And Torah wants us to be healthy. Torah wants to live a long life. Do what we can to take care of ourselves. So that's a motivating factor for me now also.
Love that. Don't use religion to hide behind unhealthy habits or behaviors.
And, and now I have good momentum and I don't want to ruin that. So I think, the Mishnah says, mitzvah gereris mitzvah, like success breeds success, so make small changes, reward yourself, not with food, for those, positive changes that you made, and keep it going. And if you find yourself in a position where you took a step back, one step back could be 2 steps forward, don't lose hope.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Oh, so powerful. So powerful. And if someone is feeling inclined to go to comfort because that feels good, keep in mind that the success of getting there feels even better than that good feeling you're chasing. That will be so fleeting.
What's easy isn't always right.
Yeah. Ooh, I feel like we just brought Tony Robbins in the room, in a soft-spoken voice. Thank you. Batya, what message do you wish you could tell your old self as someone that got married at 33, you said? 33. Went through that whole chapter, Odyssey, genres, sequels, that's the word I'm using. What message do you wish you could tell your old self?
I think that I would validate the pain, and kind of quote my grandmother, who would always say, like, decide to be happy and then you'd be happy, right? Like, there's a decision to it, and you can get those tools. You have to work on it. But mostly what I'd want to tell her is that it's hard and it's okay to feel that way, right? Because it's one thing to feel a certain way, and then on top of it, to feel guilty for feeling that way. So I think, because regardless of what the outcome is, I think that at that moment, she needed to hear that.
Wow.
I give her a hug.
Yeah. Yeah. And for everyone that feels like it's hard in whatever capacity it is in your personal life, whether it's through dating, whether it's through food addiction or unhealthy habits or not eating enough or relationships, I think that we don't give ourselves hugs enough.
Right. And marriage isn't the end of it, right? It's just the next chapter. It's kind of like during all that time feeling single. It's just that you couldn't get to the next chapter.
Mm-hmm.
You're kind of stuck in this same cycle over and over again. And the tools that I learned then about creating happiness from within is something that I think is powerful for the rest of life. It's not just for that moment, right? There's always going to be things and outside factors that impact you, and you kind of have to stand your own ground. I mean, I went maybe 2 months before I met Dove. My Sephardic friend, obviously, dragged me to a Hasidic Rav for a bracha. And I remember something like he said was a side point, but so impactful to me. He asked me how I was, and I hesitated for like a second. And he jumped on that moment. He's like, I see it's taking you a while. Like maybe you don't feel so good. You said, I'm good, but you're not. It wasn't an easy response for you. Maybe that this time period where you're single for a while, maybe Hashem is trying to teach you how to make yourself happy. Because it's something an important lesson that you can take throughout life, right? As I said, you've got to decide to be happy from within. And kind of learn the tools that can create that feeling. And happiness itself is just a weird word, right? What does it actually mean? And I struggled with that point also. It's kind of being like a contentness with where you are in life. In my theory, my thoughts. Probably why I draw so much, because I can't really understand the words. There's so much to encapsulate them, right? Like love, what does it mean?
Well, what I love is that so much of where you found comfort was through like visual affirmation, and you're an optometrist. And I think that it's just so cool to see people's affinities and how they come out in all different ways. I think that's pretty cool. Well, this has been so insightful and inspiring, and I hope that it gives a lot of people hope who can relate to your story. So brave for sharing. Thank you for coming. For everyone listening, I chased them down. I hunted them down with the help of my good friend Rivka Holzer. Shout out to you, an incredible human being. And this was very brave. They make it look easy. They make it look effortless. And they were very brave. And I just want to give credit where credit is due. So
thank you for being such a good host.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I told you it was a special episode. All our episodes are special. And I don't know, this one hit me a little bit differently. If it touched you in any way, I would love to hear how, why. Batya and Dove would love to hear from you. It took a lot of bravery to get them to come on. They were willing, but naturally nervous, being so vulnerable, sharing your deepest, darkest secrets with the entire world, thousands and thousands of people that are listening. If you enjoyed listening, just let them know. They'll read your comments. They won't forget your comments. It will really make a difference. So thank you for being a part of the SOH family. And thank you for enabling us to continue this important work.